Well, after a euphoric feeling on Wednesday night, I couldn't feel much lower. Just 2-3 days later. Very, very disappointed in the way that we started the game. I thought we allowed what was a fairly flat Houston group to get in front and to feel good about themselves. There were opportunities to be had here tonight and to earn points. And the display from an awful lot of the individuals that were on the field was nowhere near the standard that we've been able to set time and time again. Is that because of the exploits of Wednesday night, the emotions? Maybe. Was it for a lack of consistency from some of the guys that had come in? Possibly. Was it the changes and the lack of connection in the group? Also, maybe. But I think you all understand that I'm going down a route of making excuses there. And the simple fact is, against 10 men for 45 minutes, we were unable to show enough cutting edge, enough quality, enough good choices or inspiration. And in fact, conceded again to give them enough of a buffer to see the game out. So there are some really, really disappointing aspects of tonight. And the only thing I can say is I've not seen a performance like that before. And I truly hope I don't see one again.
Team Sullivan with the first question.
Hey, Gary, based on your lineup decisions Wednesday versus tonight, I guess I'm trying to ask kind of delicately, but how much was a plan ahead of time to, prioritize the Open Cup match against Atlanta versus tonight? And how much was, when that game goes to 120 minutes, do you have to kind of do what you have available for this evening?
Well, look, you can say priorities, I guess, because, Hanny and Walker, who are, mainline players for us, don't play today. Everyone will look and say, well, you've not taken it seriously. That's just not the case. Now, every single point in this league is valuable. And I've told the guys, we work tremendously hard to earn points. And in many ways, we've been able to help Houston on their way here today. I don't know too many times that we've had that courtesy. Yes, the 120 minutes played into the equation. It was an unexpected challenge that we ran into. Yes, the fact that the opponent at home, was a very challenging one. But if you look at the guys that have come into the group, the back line played against Columbus, including Joe, of course. 2 central midfield players, nobody would bat an eyelid at. Luke started against Atlanta and came in to replace Randall, who was unavailable. And CJ is a starting body for the group, normally. Ethan's the only player in the group that we could look at and say, okay, that's not normally the route I would go. But after his performance on Wednesday night, the lad deserved another opportunity. But out of opportunity has to come consistency. And unfortunately tonight, there are far too many players who were given the chance on Wednesday night who did very, very well, who fell short. And far too many of the guys that, probably knew they weren't going to be out there for the 90 minutes today also fell short.
Ray Heels.
Gary, it seems that Houston was conceding a lot of the possession and really sat in a very low block to maybe elect for you guys to do a bulk of the work. Once Adam got the red card, what was your approach for attacking that, finding different ways to attack that? And perhaps, you've spoken about it. What was your disappointment in the failure to do that in the second half?
Well, I think you could see immediately we went to a back four. You know, the fullbacks were asked to be more aggressive, to join in, and to give us plenty of width. And we had our two midfield players. I wanted Sean to get a little bit higher. We had Luke Haakenson, and obviously Hanny came into a more aggressive front line three. And we were looking to try and overload those areas essentially, whilst also, you know, give ourselves an opportunity with balls going into the box. Did we move the ball quick enough? No. Were our choices in and around the area good enough? Not normally. Was the crossing accurate enough? Was there a good enough repress? Was there enough urgency? Look, I'm having a conversation with you guys here today that I don't normally have. And this is not very enjoyable, as you can well imagine. And I'm pleased that I don't have to sit here too often and talk in this manner and feel this way. But today was the first time I've seen a group of players that we've put on the field who have been nowhere near the task at hand. Nowhere near it. There was no urgency. There was no drive or ambition about our play. It looked very after the Lord Mayor's show, and we paid the price for that. You cannot compete in this league and come in below par. Teams will beat you, and they have tonight.
Ben Wright.
Yeah, Gary, I don't want to belabor the point here, but it feels like from what you said on the post-game broadcast in here today, you kind of bet on depth and were let down by that. Do you feel like that was just tonight, or do you feel like that could be indicative of a larger issue?
No, look, do I think that we have enough coming into the game to make differences and to be more effective? I think the answer to that, Ben, based on what we've seen on a fairly regular basis, is probably no, we ain't got enough. I think people have been below par, and there are too many bodies that have been below par for too long. There have been guys that have started tonight that have been very, very decent for us. We've seen guys like Taylor and Eric perform at a very high level, and they've not been up to scratch tonight. But when we needed something more creative and with more gusto about it, if you like, it was lacking. You tell me who came into the game and made a difference creatively. You tell me who started the game and made a difference creatively. You tell me what your opinion is.
Claudio.
It probably won't be any different to mine. You know, we've been nowhere near it. Or, you know, what do you want me to say? That guys that have come into the game have done well enough when they haven't? No, they haven't done enough. And there are individuals out there, and we all know that there are players that should be performing to a much higher level than they are. You have it.
Claudio, go ahead.
Thank you, Christine. Gary, obviously, we're taking what you're saying very well. But when you look at those players that you just said on the last statement that are not performing toward your standards for the MLS, how do you get that consistency that they're missing for sure? I mean, you cannot come and try to survive in this league by just giving a couple of minutes or 3 minutes of a good performance in any given game. How do you do the opposite, getting these guys to come and do a consistent performance for the team like it didn't happen tonight?
Well, look, I think we would all agree that this type of performance has been an anomaly. We don't often see this. I don't often see this from our group. So I think that's why I'm a tad perplexed and bemused at what I've actually witnessed tonight. Because when guys have come in, they've stood up to the task and they've done a very good job. In answer to your question, there's only ever two ways, one way really of working with players, and that is for them week in, week out, in training sessions, in extra work, to try and improve their technique and skill and hone their abilities as a professional. And then you bring that onto the stage. The stage is obviously match day. If you look around our group at the moment, you know, we are missing guys like Randall and Teal. We miss those guys in that depth, and guys like Annabelle with their experience. But surely in today's game, and you know, I'm going to feel pretty flat, as I've told you plenty of times, about the performance. But when you look at a result like that and the way we've played, there's a lot of players that should be offering more than they have, you know, and that's not just the guys that started. It is the guys that came into the game. They were unable to lift the group on the field, and with an extra man, and that always makes life and emotions that much, you know, more pointed, because you played against 10 men, and we really haven't done enough to question that group. You know, I haven't seen the stats, but I would suspect they're abominable.
Tim Sullivan with the final question for coach.
Gary, when you look at what happened tonight, obviously you may disagree, but maybe a fatigue came into play. And when you look at a Wednesday and then another weekend game, and then the following Wednesday in the Open Cup again, how do you manage your personnel, especially with guys like Randall and Teal as yet unavailable at least, and kind of find guys to have the legs, to have the energy to get better results than you got tonight?
Yeah, look, let me try and get this right. We play Salt Lake on the Sunday, we get 2 days break. We play on the Wednesday, we lose a day, and we play on the Saturday, we get 2 days break. So you can see the reasons why there were some changes. I tried to keep it in a format and a shape that most players should understand and look at and think, we've got a competitive chance here. But yes, I've tried somehow, some way, you know, to not put the same players at risk and then, you know, be staring at some serious injuries or some problems further down the line. As far as preparation for Wednesday, my hope is that, you know, a glut of players. Walker's played 30 minutes. Romney's played an hour, whatever it was. Lovett's, you know, 30 minutes. You can go around the team. I don't need to tell you. There's a lot of players there that have had to use today as their opportunity to be ready again for Wednesday, and then Saturday, and then Wednesday, and then Saturday, and then they get a break. It was my choice to try and use today to be a competitive day, and I'll look back and say I took too many chances. So I'm partly to blame here today. But, you know, obviously what we don't know are the consequences if I'd have turned out the same group after 120 minutes of a very, very tough cup tie. So we're all in this together. It's a particularly crap night, and we'll get through it.
Tough one, obviously. Felt good to get my first MLS start, obviously coming off the back of a heck of a game midweek against Atlanta, and we just got to build off this. Take the positives and move on, so we don't got a lot of time to get ready for Montreal midweek.
Thank you. We'll begin with Tim Sullivan.
Hey, Luke, obviously your game plan changes 35 minutes in. What is the way you guys want to handle playing against a 10-man team, and then what is the frustration of not being able to break down that team?
For me personally, I can only speak for myself. I know my job is to create chances. We're obviously a man up, so we need to find areas on the field that we can exploit them and look for overloads in certain areas in the wide areas. So game plan changes just for the fact that we can gamble more. We can look for the spaces that we have more men, and we don't necessarily need to be conservative at all. We should be going for it. So
Red Hills.
Yeah, Luke, I mean, you were part of that crew that played a decent amount of minutes, obviously Open Cup and comeback, and to your point, getting your start in Houston. Was there a point where it was obviously the conditions were a part of it, the game, but was there a point where that may have been the largest, I guess you can say, opponent for you personally? And did you feel that you were starting to get fatigued a little bit earlier than usual?
I don't think so. I don't think we can have any excuses. I think we're all hitting mid-season form. Rotation's good. I think we're all really, really fit and in good shape. So I don't think we can use that as an excuse. And I think rotation becomes important. Games are flying at us fast, and we need to get ready for the next one. Montreal at home Wednesday, and keep our form going at home.
Claudio Villalobos.
Look, after the last game, especially Gary came up to the conference room and said that it was difficult to have a more motivated team after what you did here in Nashville. What do you think lies the fact that that really didn't come into play inside the field today in Houston?
I'm sorry. Can you just be a little bit more specific for me?
Well, what I'm trying to say is that he said that the performance you guys did, especially in the second half, last game, it was such a good one that he couldn't feel any more motivation was needed for today's game. And today, it seems like nothing really worked for you guys inside, even with.
Yeah. All I can say to that is, we need to get back into the film room, look at what didn't go right. This group, if you look around the locker room, I mean, we are as consistent as it comes. We're going to look at this as a blip on the screen and get in the video room, figure out what didn't go right, and correct it Wednesday. And that's kind of a growth mentality that we've had, and I think that speaks to why we're so consistent for the last 3 years in MLS.